Hi, my name's Isaac, and this is my 2019 Toyota Tacoma SR5. And today, I'm gonna give you guys a 2-year update on the truck. It's been 24,601 miles, nearly 10,000 subscribers, and 2 million channel views since I did my first Tacoma video. Man, I cannot believe it's been 2 years already. I don't know where the time goes. I remember the day I first laid eyes on this truck like it was yesterday. Okay, Mr. Isaac, I'm just gonna need a couple of signatures and then you are all set. I hope you look at your future wife like that someday. What? Oh, yeah, sure. Wow. That is not very reassuring. My future wife is either really gonna like that joke or really not gonna like that joke. Wow, it has already been 2 years. That is crazy how time flies. Anyway, I'm going to structure this video in the exact same way I did last year's 1-year update video on the Tacoma. So we're gonna start with the cons section, then we'll move to the pros, then we'll do all the mods that I've added to the truck since last year's video, and I will finish it off with doing a driving segment and telling you guys how it's held up performance-wise over the past 2 years. Let's get started. Starting out with the cons section, this is probably the most annoying con that I've had owning the truck thus far. Now, it developed about 6 or 7 months ago when I'm going down the highway, 55, 60 miles per hour. Sometimes this mirror area develops a really loud whistling noise, and I couldn't figure out what it was. You know, I'll put my window down, I'll put my hand here, and it'll kind of stop, or if I press on this, it'll kind of stop. And what people think it is, based on forums that I went on, is like a door sealant issue, because other Tacomas experience this in the 3rd generation, and I've noticed some 2nd generation owners also have this issue, but they think it's maybe with crosswinds hitting the truck and a specific seal not being correctly fitted that it develops this really loud whistling noise. They call it the kazoo noise. So if you have this issue, it's called the kazoo whistle on the Tacoma mirror, and it's been fairly annoying. And it seems like not every Tacoma has this, and it's not to a specific generation. Some 2nd gens have it, some 3rd gens have it. So it's been fairly annoying, and as you know, if you've seen last year's video, I accidentally dropped the clips down here on this panel when I was going to take the door panel off. Now, to update that, I actually don't hear the clips rattle around. A lot of people had suggested I put foam sealant in there and that would stop the clips from rattling, but I actually haven't heard them rattle in quite a long time, because if you take this panel off and the clips fall back in, there is no way to get to them, basically, because they don't fall all the way down in the door. But the positive update there is I don't hear that. But I do have this whistling noise, which I thought at first maybe came from the clips falling in, but no, it seems like this is just a Tacoma issue, and some owners have it, and dealerships have no idea what specifically causes it, which is annoying. But when I have my windows up and the music on, I don't generally hear it. And again, it doesn't always happen at highway speeds. I think it's a crosswinds issue. The second con on this truck keeps us at the driver's side door. More specifically, my issue is this grab handle right here. So when you pull on it, especially when you're pulling the door closed, the entire door panel feels really flimsy. And there's no like clip directly behind this, I don't think. And so when I pull this closed, the whole door rattles and it just feels cheap. You know, as I'm about to talk about in a minute in the pros section, I really feel like the rest of this truck's build quality has been fantastic and has held up over the last 2 years really well. But this door panel right here just feels cheap when I go to grab it. Like the door handle right there, that feels good. The panel you can see right here, it just like shakes, and I just feel like Toyota should have done more to like clip this in, that it doesn't just feel so cheap and shaky right there. That's just a little bit of a disappointment for me. The last con I wanted to talk about is the rear seats. Now this really depends on your height. So I'm 5'9" and I fit back here relatively fine. This is where I would normally sit And sitting in the back seats here, I have a decent amount of leg room, good amount of headroom, but I'm actually at college right now, and I've been driving a lot of my friends around recently, and one of them is 6'6", and if he does not get the front seat, he is in bad luck. So we always try to give him the front seat, but even then, he has this all the way back, and you don't get any rear leg room if you're sitting back here. And so, you know, it is really cramped back here if you're a taller individual. So I just wanted to point that out because, you know, even if I had this seat a little bit further back, it just would not be ideal leg room. And I totally get why taller people generally don't like the Tacoma, because there's not a lot of space. Hopefully on the next generation, they can improve upon that. Moving to the pros section, it's kind of funny because other than this door being a little flimsy on the panel here and the kazoo noise out around the mirror area, the rest of the build quality in this truck has held up phenomenally. I mean, the dials right here and switches still feel like new. The buttons on the steering wheel, especially the volume and the channel changing, which I use all the time, still feel great. The leather on the steering wheel has held up and it hasn't started to tear or anything. Overall, the truck has held up really, really well. It's always been able to tow what I've needed it to. It's always been able to haul what I've needed it to. Yes, I've had to take some extra trips, but that's okay. I mean, if I need to take one extra trip of mulch compared to owning an F-150 and having to have paid $6 or $7 grand more, I absolutely will take that compromise because especially the Toyotas have the long-term reliability. I mean, yeah, engines held up great, transmissions held up fantastic. I'll talk a little bit more about the transmission. I'm sure everybody wants to hear about, oh, does it jump gears, blah, blah, blah. I'll talk about that in the driving section, but I mean, overall, this truck is amazing. I mean, it's really held up great, and it is very solidly built. I know there was a lot of questions from people when the third generation came out. They just didn't think that this was as solidly built as the second generation, but I really think that the build quality is excellent, and the hauling's excellent, and the towing's excellent, and just the bed itself, the tailgate's held up really well. The backup camera still looks great like it did 2 years ago, and I've used this truck fairly hard, you know, with landscaping and stuff, and it's done its job amazing. It's really, really a great truck, and that pretty much wraps up my pros because it's great. I mean, the cons are really what everybody's here for in the mod section probably, but the pros, it's a good truck and it's held up really well. Moving on to the mods section, I figured in addition to telling you guys the new mods that I've added, because there isn't really that many, I would update you on some of the other ones and how they've held up over the years. Tow hitch, still towing. Body color bumper shells, still body color. Moving into the bed, I have these little LED lights that I have installed on there for nighttime, and I literally never use them. The batteries are dead in both of them. I just show them off. I'm like, look at how convenient this was that this fit in here. But I've never really needed them because if I'm unloading stuff at night, it's usually in a place that's fairly well lit. It is a nice thing to have though. I am gonna put more AA batteries in there. What I actually did is I put Velcro on them so you can take them off easier and replace the batteries, because it was very difficult to replace the batteries when they died. And so, you know, they're okay. I just, like I said, never use them. Additionally, I have the tonneau cover right here. This is fantastic. I absolutely love the Truck Sport Truxedo tonneau cover. I think it's fantastic on this truck. It's held up really well and the quality is phenomenal. I can't speak highly enough for this tonneau cover. This was my second one. The first one was a trifold. I really didn't like the design of that. I like the roll-up one. Basically what you do, to clarify if you haven't seen my previous video, there's two tabs you can pull on there, and then what you do is you just roll up the tonneau like this all the way up to the cab, giving you full access to the bed. Now obviously if somebody really wanted to break in and they had a knife, they could very easily do that on this truck, but I just like having a bed covering so if I have stuff that it doesn't get rained on or anything. Generally, I don't keep valuables in the bed of my truck. So let's move to the front. Moving to the front of the truck, this is one of the new mods right here. This is a bug deflector from AVS. I got this on Amazon.com because I noticed when I was driving at highway speeds that a lot of bugs would hit my windshield, and this has done an excellent job of sending them right over the windshield. And so, you know, it's really funny because at first I was like, I don't know if I'm really gonna like how this looks on the front of the truck. I really like the front end design of the Tacoma, and I felt that this might ruin it, especially in this lighter color. I think if it was in black, it wouldn't matter. But I actually photoshopped what this bug deflector would look like onto the truck, and I went, oh, well, okay, that doesn't look too bad. And so I ended up purchasing it, but it's been one of the best purchases I've gotten for the truck because it really clears up windshield visibility at higher speeds. And then the other thing that I've added on, actually there's two more things I've added on the front of the truck. I put LED headlights and LED fog lights in on this truck. Absolutely love them. I've gotten flashed 2 or 3 times with my fog lights on because people think I have my high beams, but generally with the low beam LED headlights, that's not a distraction. These LEDs have far superior nighttime visibility than the standard Tacoma halogen headlights do. Normally we're transitioning more over to these LEDs anyway, and I think that really adds to the more modern aesthetic of the truck. And it saves me from buying headlights that have like the LED light strip in them. As much as I'd like the LED light strip that's in the newer Tacomas, the sequential like turn signal, I know obviously that's just a want, that's not a need for the truck, and so it was kind of a compromise to get these LEDs in here, and I think that that's great. They really look awesome. And then the last thing I guess in this case removed, I didn't add a mod here, was I took off my lower air dam, and after an entire year, maybe like 0.2 less fuel economy. Basically the air dam is supposed to help you get better fuel economy, and that's why they put them down here. But if I'm doing any off-roading in this truck, this was impeding on the front, so I took it off, and I've literally noticed no difference at all in fuel economy. Like nothing even remotely noticeable, and I think the truck looks a little bit sleeker too without that kind of front end section. Before we fully move into the interior mods, I forgot to mention I actually added tiny blind spot mirrors that I got on Amazon. These are incredibly helpful since my truck didn't come with blind spot monitoring. The last mod that I've added to the truck this year is heated seats. I got these installed from an aftermarket company that my dealership got me in contact with when I asked them if I could get heated seats without going to Amazon and getting one of those like seat pads that just plugs into the 12 volt. And these things are fantastic. They work really good. They have 2 settings, and they are really warm, especially helpful in the winter. And they look practically factory. You'd barely be able to tell that they were aftermarket. I will leave a link in the description below for that company. I am not sponsored by them, but if they'd like to sponsor me, I wouldn't be opposed because I believe they make sunroofs as well, and I'd love a sunroof in my truck. The only other thing that I'll touch upon is I did get a driver's side grab handle for my truck, and originally I made a video where I was installing it, but that was a nightmare, absolute disaster. It did not line up correctly with the screw holes behind this A-pillar. It kept stripping the screws, and it just would not go in correctly, and you know, it was really flimsy, not good as a driver's side grab handle. And I've seen other people install it correctly, and I think that I just had a damaged grab handle, and I asked the company, I said, hey, I think this one's just faulty, could you send me another one? They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't accept my return, so I had to contact my bank, and finally they just last week accepted my return. This has been about a 4 or 5 week saga. It's given me a massive headache. There's only one company right now that makes aftermarket driver's side grab handles for Tacomas, and I would be very weary if you are looking to purchase one because it did not work for me. It was just very cheap overall, and I'm very disappointed in that company. So I'd be very weary if you're looking for a grab handle. But that pretty much wraps up the mods that I've added to it. I've been pretty light in the mod department in the last year because I've added everything that I wanted. I mean, I have everything that I want in this truck. The touchscreen doesn't have Apple CarPlay, but I don't really need Apple CarPlay. It has Bluetooth, and that's what I like. And I installed this about a year ago. This is just a sticky and a magnetic for my phone, and I just plop my phone right on there and use Google Maps, Apple Maps right from there. So overall, the Tacoma is an amazingly functional vehicle, and I love it. This truck is fantastic. I could not be more thankful to God for blessing me with this truck. So let's take it for a spin, and we'll talk about its ride quality in the last 2 years and how it's held up mechanically. Alrighty, moving to the driving segment. As you can see, this is a different day because I've just picked my Tacoma up from the factory fuel pump recall, and I just got it back from the dealership. Now, a lot of people might say, ha, Toyotas have recalls. Well, clearly they are not as good as they used to be. But I would counter that by saying at least Toyota does recalls and fulfills their word. When they find a faulty product, they will recall their vehicles to replace it. Ford recently had a huge rust issue on the F-150s, and they had the death wobble on the F-250s. They've acknowledged that these are issues, and they have not recalled those vehicles to have those parts replaced. I'm just thankful that Toyota goes, hey, we found a problem, we are gonna fix this, and we are gonna honor it. So I guess I'll address the big elephant in the room, which is the transmission jumping gears. A lot of people have asked me, does your transmission jump gears? Is it as bad as they say it is? Well, yes, it does jump gears, but it is not nearly as bad as they say it is. It's really only when I'm merging onto the highway and I'm accelerating really fast that it jumps gears, and that's still only occasionally. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes, and this is really an annoying thing, it'll downshift for some reason, and I'm like, why are you downshifting? This is such a strange thing. The transmission is very unpredictable. I'd gladly trade that for the long-term reliability of the Tacoma and the overall ride quality and feel that this truck has if I have to deal with some annoying extra little jolt when I'm merging onto the highway. And as far as I know, that's not something that's detrimental to the transmission long term. At least Toyota said that thus far. Another thing a lot of people have been asking about is the rear drum brakes. Oh no, it's got rear drum brakes. They brake fine. When I hit the brakes, they work. I've never had an issue braking ever. I could care less. You could tell me my brakes were made of salami, but I'd be like, well, this salami's really holding up because they work fine. So, you know, I have no problem with the rear brakes at all. So that is basically going to wrap up my video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's so amazing to have an audience as cool as you guys. I love talking to you in the comments and having these amazing interactions. And even when we don't agree, like a lot of people are like, oh, I love my Colorado or I love my Ranger, and that's awesome. I'm so thankful that you do. That's obviously why they make different kinds of pickup trucks. There's competition, and I'm totally open for that. I wouldn't want everyone to love the Tacoma. Like, I love how each person loves their truck individually, and I love talking to people. I'm like, why do you love your truck? And they're like, let me tell you about how amazing this is. I'm like, that's so cool. And so I'm just thankful to have you guys as an audience, because it is truly an amazing experience to be able to do these YouTube videos for you guys. I am a Christian, so if you have any prayer requests, you can also leave those in the comments section. It has been amazing to be able to pray with you guys and talk to you guys about your lives, and it's just such an honor to be able to do that. Honestly, it really is. And I also like to do a weekly Bible verse. This week's Bible verse is Joshua 1:9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened, and do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and I'll see you next time.